Okay, so you want to own a gym. You've got the body, you've got the passion, maybe you've even trained clients on the side. You walk into your local Planet Fitness or Equinox and think, this is just machines and mirrors. How hard can it be? The global fitness industry is projected to hit over $100 billion in revenue this year. Millions of people pay every single month for something they barely use. Surely there's easy money in that. There is. The question is whether you can survive long enough to collect it. By the end of this, you'll know what it actually costs to open the doors, why the real business isn't fitness at all, and why one of the largest gym chains in America filed for bankruptcy despite owning hundreds of locations packed with paying members. Let's start with what you're actually buying into. A gym isn't a fitness business. It's a real estate business wrapped around a subscription business, and the subscription only works if most of the people paying you never show up. The entry costs. At the bottom, you can open a small independent gym, a few thousand square feet, secondhand equipment, no frills, for somewhere around $50,000 to $150,000. You'll get a handful of treadmills, some free weights, and just enough space to run classes. This is the gym equivalent of that Panama Island with no dock, technically functional, barely commercial. Move up to a real franchise operation, and the numbers change completely. A single Planet Fitness location costs between roughly $1.5 million and $5.2 million to open, according to the company's own franchise disclosure documents. That includes a $20,000 franchise fee, $800,000 to $1.8 million in construction and leasehold improvements, and $400,000 to $900,000 just on equipment. The treadmills, the strength machines, the tanning beds, all purchased through Planet Fitness's approved suppliers, not wherever you find the best deal. Before you're allowed to even apply, you need a net worth north of $3 million and roughly $1.5 million in liquid cash sitting in the bank. And that's before the building even opens. The hidden costs nobody budgets for. Every few years, the brand sends you a bill whether you asked for one or not. Planet Fitness calls it a re-equip cost, and it can run anywhere from $425,000 to over $1 million to refresh strength and cardio equipment to current brand standards. Refuse and you risk losing your flag. A debranding penalty that can run $35,000 per equipment category alone. Then there's ongoing royalties, 7% of your gross membership revenue, every single month, forever, plus a separate marketing fee on top of that. The running costs. Once the doors are open, the bills don't stop. Insurance on a facility full of heavy machinery and members who might injure themselves runs into real money every year. Utilities for a 20,000 square foot building running air conditioning and hot water 24 hours a day add up fast. Staffing, front desk, trainers, a cleaning crew, a general manager, is a fixed cost whether you have 50 members walk in that day or 500. And equipment doesn't last forever. Cables fray, treadmill belts wear out, and machines need constant servicing. A typical Planet Fitness franchise generates close to $1.8 million a year in revenue. But after royalties, staffing, debt service, and maintenance, franchisees typically take home somewhere between $215,000 and $270,000 in profit. On a multi-million-dollar investment, that puts your payback period at somewhere around 15 to 17 years. That's a long time to wait to get your own money back. Here's the part that actually explains this business. Gyms don't make their money from people who use the facility. They make their money from people who pay and don't show up. Industry data shows that roughly 2/3 of gym memberships go unused or barely used at all. Only about 1 in 5 members attend regularly. And the industry knows this. The entire pricing model is built on the assumption that most of the equipment most of the time will be sitting empty, because if everyone who paid actually showed up on the same day, there wouldn't be enough treadmills in the building. This is why churn doesn't scare gym owners the way it should. The average gym loses somewhere between 30% and 40% of its members every single year. Half of new members quit within 6 months of signing up. And yet the business survives, because it costs a gym 5 to 7 times more to acquire a new member than to keep an old one. So the entire industry has quietly built itself around a constant conveyor belt. Aggressive January signups, a wave of cancellations by summer, repeat. You are not really selling fitness. You are selling a monthly habit that most people will pay for out of guilt long after they've stopped attending. And the moment they stop paying for good, you go find someone new to replace them. But that model has a breaking point, and it showed up in the worst possible way in 2020. 24-Hour Fitness walked into the pandemic with 445 locations across 14 states and more than 19,000 employees. Then state and local governments forced every location to shut down in March of that year. The bills didn't stop. Rent didn't stop. Loan payments didn't stop. Only the incoming member revenue stopped. On June 15, 2020, the company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, permanently closing more than 100 clubs and cutting its workforce by roughly 60%. It took a $250 million loan just to keep the remaining locations breathing, and it didn't emerge from bankruptcy until the very end of that year, after wiping out $1.2 billion in debt. A company with hundreds of buildings full of expensive equipment and a customer base of millions still went under, because the entire business model depends on people continuing to show up to a building and pay a recurring fee. And the instant that stops, the fixed costs don't care. So who actually wins in this industry? Not the boutique studio charging premium prices to a small, loyal crowd. Those are vulnerable to exactly the kind of shock that hit 24-hour fitness. The winners are the high-volume, low-cost operators who accept razor-thin margins per member in exchange for sheer scale. Planet Fitness charges as little as $10 to $15 a month, deliberately keeps prices low enough that people don't bother canceling even if they stop attending, and spreads its fixed costs, corporate overhead, national advertising, equipment purchasing, across millions of members instead of thousands. Nearly 20 million people now pay Planet Fitness every month, and the vast majority of them are, by the company's own admission, casual or first-time gym-goers who mostly don't show up. That's not a flaw in the business. That's the entire business. Let's close the loop. You put up somewhere between $1.5 and $5 million to open a single mid-size franchise gym. You bring in close to $2 million a year in revenue. After royalties, re-equip costs, staffing, insurance, and debt service, you're left with a few $100,000 in annual profit, if you're one of the ones that survives long enough to get there. And the entire financial engine underneath it depends on the majority of your paying customers never actually walking through the door. So the next time you see rows of empty treadmills at 10 in the morning and wonder how the gym stays in business, understand what you're actually looking at. You're not looking at a failing gym. You're looking at exactly how the math was supposed to work all along.